On a warm afternoon, a black woman strode home, her emerald earrings shimmering with pride. But that pride shattered when a bitter cop blocked her way, falsely accusing her of theft and hurling relentless insults. He even snapped cold steel hard around her wrists and dragged her roughly to the station. What he didn't realize was that he was making a dangerous mistake, and when the woman's powerful husband arrived, not only he, but the entire city would be shaken to its core. Before we dive in this story, let us know where you watching from. We love to hear your thought. The afternoon sun spilled over Silverford in sheets of gold, settling on brick storefronts and iron lampposts wrapped in faded bunting. The town bustled gently, teenagers rode past on bicycles, the bell over a bakery door jingled with each customer, and laughter drifted from Carter's Deli, where barbecue smoke curled above the sidewalk tables. It looked like a painting of small-town charm, a place proud of its order and rhythm, yet beneath the surface, the air carried a stillness, as though holding its breath. Amara Lewis walked with steady steps, her heels tapping against the pavement. She carried a tote bag on her shoulder, the strap pressing gently against her cream blouse. A plastic badge clipped to the handle still showed her name, Amara Lewis, Systems Architect. She had just finished giving a talk at the Civic Tech Forum, a session about data ethics in policing. The hall had been packed, and the questions had been sharp, but she had kept her voice calm and professional. Now, away from the stage, she finally let herself breathe. Her hands brushed the earrings at her ears. They were simple, silver hooks holding two small emerald stones. Not flashy, not oversized, but unmistakably precious. They were a wedding gift from her husband, Malik. Every time she wore them she thought of the day he had clasped them into place, whispering that she should never lower her head for anyone. The earrings caught the sunlight and sparkled as she passed a row of flower beds planted by volunteers from the town. Halfway down the block, a group of teenagers sitting on the curb caught the flash of her earrings. They whispered, curious, but with no edge in their voices. One girl muttered, "Pretty earrings," before glancing away quickly. Amara gave the faintest smile, a brief reminder that not every glance carried judgment. She smiled faintly, then exhaled. That smile disappeared when she noticed a figure leaning against a police cruiser parked across the street. He was a middle-aged officer with a square jaw, buzzed hair, and a styrofoam cup in his hand. His name was Travis Huxley, though Amara did not know that yet. What she noticed first was the way he looked at her, not at her face, not at her bag, but straight at her earrings. He squinted as the sunlight hit the green stones. His lip curled just slightly, almost like a sneer, and he tapped his finger against the cup, a restless rhythm that did not match the stillness of the street. His eyes narrowed, following Amara as she walked. She felt the stare before she even turned her head, the weight of it pressing against her shoulders. Amara kept her steps even. She had been stared at before. Still, her heartbeat shifted, thumping a little faster. Amara lifted her chin. Her mother used to tell her, if you show them fear, they will feed on it. Walk tall. She tightened her grip on her tote bag, adjusted the strap once more, and moved forward. The earrings swayed with each step, tiny flashes of green in the golden light, innocent but impossible to ignore. On the corner of the block, she paused, checking the pedestrian signal. The red hand glowed against the sky. She waited, tapping her finger lightly against her side. Her mind drifted to Malik. He had a council meeting that afternoon. He would be home later, probably still in his tie, probably asking if she had eaten. She wanted to keep the evening ordinary. Dinner, maybe a walk around the park, no interruptions, but as the light changed and she started to cross, she felt Travis shift his weight against the cruiser. The gravel crunched beneath his boots. She did not need to hear words yet. The sound of that movement alone told her that the quiet streets of Silverford were about to become anything but ordinary. The signal turned green, and Amara stepped off the curb, moving toward the far side of the street. Her heels struck the pavement in steady rhythm, but she could still hear the crunch of gravel from behind her. She did not want to look back, yet every muscle in her body told her that the officer was no longer leaning against his car. The quiet in her chest twisted into a tight coil, a warning that trouble was about to walk right into her path. Halfway across, she finally allowed herself a glance. Travis Huxley had pushed away from the cruiser. His shoulders were squared, his jaw set, and the crushed cup was now tossed to the ground like it never mattered. His hand hovered near his belt, close enough to send a message. His eyes weren't curious, they were accusatory, sharp, like she had already been found guilty of something he had not even bothered to name yet. She tightened her grip on the tote bag and kept moving. When she reached the other side, Travis was already cutting diagonally through the street, boots striking hard against the asphalt. A couple waiting at the corner to cross saw the direction of his stride, then quickly turned their heads away, pretending to study the traffic light. No one wanted to be in the middle of whatever was about to unfold. Amara straightened her back, her heartbeat fast but even, refusing to let him see her flinch. "Hey," the bark cut through the air like a whip. Travis's voice was loud enough for everyone on the block to hear. "You there, lady in the cream blouse, stop right where you are." Amara froze, not because she was guilty, but because she knew from experience that ignoring an order like that could only make things worse. She turned slowly, keeping her chin lifted, and met his eyes. "Yes, officer." Her tone was steady, polite, but also edged with calculation. Travis walked up, stopping just a little too close. His eyes flicked down to her earrings, glimmering in the sunlight. He pointed at them with a sharp jerk of his finger. "Those, where'd you get 'em?" His words were clipped, not a question but an accusation. Amara blinked once, stunned by the bluntness, then answered, "They're mine, a gift from my husband." She could already feel her stomach tightening. The way he asked was not about property, it was about permission, about whether she deserved to own anything that looked expensive. Travis scoffed, shaking his head slowly. "A gift, huh, from your husband, must be nice. Funny thing though, those look an awful lot like a pair that went missing from a boutique 2 blocks over. Real expensive, real rare, and here you are, just strolling down the street, like you hit the jackpot." His smirk widened as he said it, his voice dripping with contempt. Amara kept her eyes locked on his. "That's not true, I came from the Civic Forum. I spoke there today. I have my badge right here." She started to lift the tote slightly, but Travis didn't even glance. He leaned in, his breath sour with stale coffee. "People like you always got a story ready. Some speech, some excuse. But I don't need your little credentials. Out here, it's not about who can talk the nicest. Out here, it's about what I see, and what I see is a woman wearing something she couldn't possibly afford." The words stung, not because she believed them, but because he wanted them to wound. She inhaled slowly through her nose, steadying herself against the fire rising in her chest. "People like me?" Amara asked, her voice quiet but sharp as a blade. "What exactly does that mean, officer?" The moment of silence that followed was heavy. Travis grinned, leaning even closer, his voice dropping but loud enough for passers-by to hear. "You know damn well what it means. You people walk around like you own the place. Jewelry shining, head up like you're better than everyone else. But let me tell you, you're not in my town." Each word landed like a stone, deliberate, meant to grind her dignity into the sidewalk. Amara's jaw tightened, she could feel her pulse racing against her throat, but she refused to step back. She spoke with clear precision. "I earned every inch of where I stand, and I am not afraid of you." Travis's eyes narrowed. For a split second, something flickered. Doubt, maybe, or a crack in the wall he built around himself. His jaw twitched, and his hand tapped against his belt again, betraying the tension he didn't want to show. Then the sneer returned, sharper than before. "Oh, you'll be afraid, real soon." A young couple walked past quickly, their eyes darting between the two of them. The man shook his head, muttering under his breath. The woman clutched his arm tighter, pulling him along. Their reaction said everything Amara already knew. This was not just an exchange, this was a performance, one that Travis wanted an audience for. The tension in the air was no longer invisible, it had settled over the sidewalk like a storm cloud, heavy and unavoidable. Travis folded his arms now, tilting his head. "So let me get this straight, you're telling me those shiny little earrings just landed on your ears out of love and luck. You didn't swipe him. You didn't walk out of that boutique when nobody was looking." His words were slow, taunting. Amara lifted her badge halfway from her tote again. "I told you I came from the Civic Forum. I was a speaker there today, you can verify it." Travis barked a laugh, a sound so harsh it made 2 teenagers across the street look up. "Lady, the last thing I'm gonna do is take your word for it. You think flashing some badge makes you untouchable. Not here. Her breath tightened in her chest. She wanted to shout back, to call him what he was, but she knew that was what he wanted. Instead she steadied her voice. You have no cause to suspect me. None. I've committed no crime. Travis tilted forward again, close enough that his shadow cut across her blouse. You standing here, thinking you can tell me what I do and don't need, that's cause enough. You think I'm beneath you, that's what gets me. But let me make something clear. On this street, I decide who looks suspicious, and right now that's you. Amara inhaled deeply, refusing to break eye contact. The earrings swayed slightly as she moved, catching the light again. Travis's gaze flicked to them, hard and bitter. That was the spark. She could tell he was about to escalate, not because of proof, but because the sight of her standing tall, unshaken, gnawed at him. Around them the murmurs of onlookers grew louder, their discomfort thick in the humid air. Silverford, a town proud of its quiet charm, was about to watch that calm crack wide open. The air between them snapped like a wire pulled too tight. Amara stood her ground, but the way Travis's lips curled told her he was not finished. He had tasted her defiance, and he wanted to crush it. The street had gone quieter, the usual chatter thinning until even the buzz of a street light above felt too loud. Amara's earrings swayed with the wind, catching the last glow of the sun, and Travis's eyes locked onto them with a hatred that was far too personal for 2 stones of green. Travis stepped in, voice dropping, louder with each word. I don't give a damn about your fancy talk or your little badge. You think it means something. Out here, lady, you're just another one of them. Always walking proud, acting like the world owes you a crown. Let me tell you something, this is Silverford, not some damn parade. You wear those earrings like you earned them. Please, ain't no way you paid for that. Bet some poor shop owner is still shaking their head wondering who stole their pretty little gems. His laugh was sharp, ugly, designed to cut deep. Amara felt heat rise in her chest. She steadied her voice, though it trembled at the edges. I told you they were a gift, they are mine. You have no evidence, no report, nothing but your prejudice. Her words were firm, but Travis leaned in so close, she could see the stubble on his jaw, smell the sour coffee still lingering. He hissed back, prejudice, call it what you want, where I come from, if it walks like a thief, it damn sure is one. And I don't need a judge to tell me what I already see with my own eyes. The words landed heavy. A couple standing nearby exchanged glances, the woman tugging her partner's sleeve like she wanted to leave but couldn't quite look away. A man in a postal uniform slowed down, his face hardening, but he kept his arms folded, waiting, watching. Amara knew every eye on her was another weight. Her pride screamed at her to resist, to fight, but her instincts told her that Travis had already made up his mind. She inhaled sharply, steady but deliberate, and said, I know my rights, you cannot arrest me without cause. That was the trigger. Travis's jaw twitched, and his voice exploded, carrying down the street. Cause? I don't need no damn lecture on cause from you. You're out here flashing jewelry like you're some queen, but you're nothing but a suspect. You hear me? Nothing. Hands where I can see 'em, now. His tone was not a request but a performance, pitched for the growing crowd. 2 teenagers pulled out their phones, recording. The bakery window filled with the outline of the elderly woman inside, her face pale as she peered through the glass. The street had become a stage, and Travis was determined to be the star. Amara raised her hand slowly, deliberately, eyes locked on him. Her voice was steady, but the tension in her throat was visible. This is abuse of power. You are making a mistake that will follow you for the rest of your career. Travis's sneer widened, as if her warning only fueled him. Lady, the only mistake here is you thinking you can mouth off to me and walk away clean. You think you're special cause you wear a nice blouse and got shiny stones in your ears. You're nothing but trouble, and I'm gonna show you what happens when trouble runs into the wrong cop. His hand shot out, grabbing her wrist hard, twisting it behind her back with no regard for force. The cold bite of steel cuffs followed, clamping around her skin with a snap so loud it made the teens with phones flinch. Amara's body jerked forward from the pressure, her shoulder slamming against the cruiser hood. The metal was hot from the sun, burning against her blouse. She bit down on her lip, refusing to cry out. Her chest pounded like drums, but she lifted her chin, refusing to let the sound of pain be her answer. "You're humiliating yourself," she hissed, her voice low but sharp enough for him to hear. "And me. Every second of this will come back to you." Travis pressed her harder against the hood, his breath loud near her ear. "Save the speeches, ain't nobody out here gonna save you. You think those folks with their little phones matter, they don't. All they'll see is me doing my job, putting a thief in her place, and that's exactly where you belong." His words dripped with venom, each syllable digging into her pride. The crowd had thickened. The postal worker's jaw tightened as he stepped closer, but still he did not intervene. The teenagers kept filming, one whispering, "Man, this is messed up," as the other nodded, wide-eyed. The elderly woman in the bakery pressed a hand to the glass, shaking her head. Amara could feel all of it, the shame, the anger, the helplessness of being pinned in front of strangers who might believe him, or worse, stay silent out of fear. Travis yanked her upright, the cuffs biting into her wrists. He spun her toward the cruiser door, his grip rough and deliberate. "Get in," he barked, pulling the door open with a flourish, like he was displaying captured evidence. Amara stumbled slightly as he shoved her inside, her shoulder slamming against the seatbelt lock. She gasped, the sound unintentional, and immediately clenched her jaw, refusing to give him the satisfaction of hearing more. She turned her head slowly, eyes meeting his with fire. Even behind the glass, even with metal digging into her skin, she would not give him fear. Travis leaned down, face inches from hers, his voice laced with smug triumph. "Get used to the view from the back seat, it suits your kind." His words echoed in her ears, raw and cutting. Her stomach twisted, not with shame, but with fury so sharp it felt electric. She inhaled through her nose, slow, controlled, and turned her gaze away, fixing it on the bakery window where the old woman still watched. She let the steadiness of her posture speak louder than his cruelty. She would not break for him. Not here. Not now. The door slammed shut, sealing her inside. The glass muted the noise outside, but the image of faces pressed against phones, head shaking, arms folded, stayed vivid in her mind. She leaned back against the seat, the cuffs biting harder with every movement. Her thoughts raced, but her expression remained calm, almost regal. If this was humiliation, then she would turn it into a record. Every second, every word he spat, she had already started storing in memory. Travis thought he had won, but Amara knew better. This was not the end, it was the beginning of something that would outlast him. The cruiser screeched into the precinct lot, tires squealing loud enough to turn a few heads. Travis slammed the brakes with unnecessary force, like he wanted the whole world to notice. He yanked the door open, grabbed Amara by the arm, and dragged her out before she could steady her footing. The cuffs cut deeper into her wrists with each pull. Her shoulder twisted awkwardly, but she clenched her jaw, and refused to stumble. She walked upright, even as he jerked her forward like a prize he had snatched from the street. Inside the lobby, officers paused mid-task. A young desk clerk froze with a pen hovering above paperwork. Travis strutted in, chest puffed, eyes scanning the room to make sure he had an audience. He gave a laugh that was too loud for the space, pointing at Amara as if she were an exhibit. "Look what I caught, boys. Thought she could out-talk me. Thought she could strut down Main Street dripping in stolen jewels like she was some queen. Not today. Not on my watch." His voice carried, feeding on the silence that followed. Amara's head remained high, her eyes calm but cutting. She did not speak. Her silence wasn't weakness, it was control. She allowed him to perform, knowing every word he said was another stone he stacked on the tower of his arrogance. Travis noticed her posture, and the twitch in his jaw betrayed how much it unsettled him. He squeezed her cuffed wrist a little tighter, leaning in just enough to hiss, "Keep that chin up, see how far that pride takes you once you're in a cell." They passed by Officer Nia Carter, barely 22, fresh out of training. Nia's eyes widened at the sight of Amara, her brows knitting with unease. She glanced down at the woman's emerald earrings, still gleaming under the harsh fluorescent light, then quickly looked away. Her pen trembled against her notepad. She opened her mouth, then shut it. Her silence tasted bitter, but fear of crossing Travis locked her tongue. She watched as Amara was pulled further down the hall. The image of those earrings burned into her thoughts. Travis shoved Amara into a small holding cell, the metal bars clanging shut behind her. She adjusted her shoulders, sat down on the cold bench, and folded her hands neatly in her lap. The cuffs had been removed, but angry red marks lined her wrists. She did not hide them. She let the marks stay visible, a silent testimony to what had just been done. Her back stayed straight, her expression unreadable. Even under the ugly flicker of the overhead bulb, she looked composed, as though she were waiting for a meeting rather than enduring an arrest. Out in the bullpen, Travis launched into his story, waving his hands like an actor on stage. Suspicion of theft, he declared, pacing in front of two fellow officers, fancy earrings, no receipt, bad attitude. Typical, you know, walked around acting like she owned the damn place. Thought she could talk circles around me. Not on my shift. He smirked as he spoke, his voice dripping with contempt. His audience exchanged glances, unsure, but Travis didn't care. He wasn't telling a report, he was telling a performance. One officer asked, cautiously, "Did she resist? Threaten you?" Travis barked out a laugh, slapping the desk for emphasis. Resist? You kidding me? Her resistance was running that mouth of hers, thinking she's smarter than the badge. Standing there like I was beneath her, like I didn't have the right to question her. That's all the threat I needed. His words came sharper now, laced with anger he could not fully hide. His eyes flicked briefly toward the cell, where Amara sat still and silent, refusing to flinch. From the cell, Amara listened, each word slicing into the quiet air. She felt her pulse steady, not from calm, but from calculation. She knew this wasn't about earrings or theft, it was about a man drunk on power, needing to prove that no woman like her could walk unbent under his gaze. She adjusted slightly on the bench, enough to catch his eye through the bars. She didn't blink, her stare was cold steel, unbroken. It made him falter for just a second, his sentence catching before he forced a chuckle to cover it. Travis turned back to the room, raising his voice louder than necessary. This town's crawling with folks who forget who's in charge. They walk around with their heads high, dripping in things they didn't earn. Not while I'm here. I'll put them all back in their place, one by one if I have to. His words were venom, spat with conviction. A sergeant at a nearby desk lowered his gaze to his paperwork, the lines on his forehead deepening. No one challenged Travis, but the silence in the room was heavy, uncomfortable. Naya scribbled something on her pad, her hand shaking slightly. She didn't look up, but she caught a glimpse of Amara through the bars. The woman's stillness, her quiet defiance, hit her harder than Travis's rant. Naya swallowed, her throat tight. She knew what she was seeing was wrong, but she also knew that speaking up now would mean crossing a line she wasn't sure she was ready to cross. Her pen pressed harder, the ink bleeding into the paper, an outlet for the words she couldn't say aloud. Amara sat with her hands resting gently on her knees, her eyes fixed forward. Her wrists throbbed from the cuffs, but she ignored the pain. The fluorescent light flickered, catching on the emerald stones of her earrings, throwing tiny reflections against the cell wall. She let them shine, subtle but unmistakable. If Travis thought he had stripped her of dignity, he was wrong. The silence of the cell was not defeat, it was her statement, and she knew, deep down, this silence would not last forever. The double doors swung open with a heavy thud, cutting through Travis's loud performance. Every head in the precinct turned. Malik Lewis stepped inside, tall, shoulders squared, his tailored suit still crisp from a council meeting. The overhead light struck the badge clipped at his breast pocket, the seal of Silverford's mayor gleaming against the stale gray of the station. His presence changed the air immediately. The idle chatter stopped, even the hum of the fluorescent bulbs seemed to fade. Travis looked up, his smirk slipping but not vanishing. He cleared his throat, adjusting his stance as though nothing were wrong. Well, if it ain't the big man himself, didn't know we had company tonight. His tone tried for casual, but the twitch at his jaw betrayed unease. He gestured toward the cell. You'll be glad to know I just put a thief on ice. She thought she could waltz around showing off shiny earrings, no proof of where they came from. Not on my beat, I don't play favorites. His voice rose on the last words, desperate to sound bold. Malik didn't respond right away.
His eyes swept the room, pausing on Nia's tense face, on the sergeant bent low over his paperwork, and finally on Amara. She sat with her back straight, wrists still marked from the cuffs, her emerald earrings glowing faintly under the harsh light. Their eyes met, and in that silent glance, Malik read everything he needed to know. He turned slowly toward Travis, his voice low but cutting. "Unlock that cell." Now, the demand landed like a hammer. Travis stiffened, his smirk fading into something tighter. "Hold on a second. With all due respect, Mayor, this ain't your lane. This is police business. I had probable cause." She matched the report. Malik cut him off, his tone sharp as glass. "There was no report. I checked dispatch before I walked in this door. No theft, no call, nothing on Main Street tonight. You didn't respond to a crime, Officer Huxley. You invented one." The room went dead silent, the weight of his words pressing against every corner.
Travis blinked, sweat already beading along his temple. He barked a laugh too loud, too forced. "Come on. Maybe the call didn't log. Maybe dispatch screwed it up. But I know what I saw. A woman flaunting jewelry she couldn't possibly afford, running her mouth, refusing to cooperate. That's suspicious as hell. And you know it. I ain't gonna apologize for doing my damn job." His voice cracked slightly at the end, betraying the crack in his armor. He folded his arms, trying to stand taller, but it looked more like a shield than confidence. Malik stepped closer, slow and deliberate, his shadow stretching across the floor until it swallowed the space between them. His voice never rose, but each word carried steel. "Your job is to protect citizens, not profile them. Your job is to enforce law, not invent it when your pride gets bruised. What you did was not policing. It was harassment, and you did it to my wife." The final word landed like thunder. Gasps rippled across the room. Nia's pen slipped from her hand. The sergeant froze mid-breath. All eyes swung back to Travis. Color drained from Travis's face, his mouth opening and closing with no sound at first. Finally he stammered, "Your wife." He glanced toward the cell, recognition dawning too late. His smirk was gone now, replaced by panic. "I didn't know. She was giving me attitude, trying to act above me. I thought." Malik's voice boomed the first time he let the full force of his anger out. "You thought wrong. You thought your badge gave you the right to humiliate a woman in public because she dared to hold her head high. You thought her skin, her pride, her earrings made her guilty. That is not law. That is hate." The weight of his words settled heavy. Travis's shoulders sagged, his hands twitching near his belt. He tried to speak again, but Malik raised a hand, silencing him. "As of this moment, Officer Huxley, you are suspended. Badge, gun, desk, gone. You will turn them in before you leave this building, and you will answer for every word you spat tonight." His tone was final, no room for debate. Around them the other officers stood frozen, a mix of relief and discomfort on their faces. No one spoke in Travis's defense. Travis swallowed hard, his face blotched red. He muttered almost under his breath, "This is bullshit. All this for a pair of damn earrings. For a woman who didn't know her place." His voice was bitter, but the words landed like nails in his own coffin. Malik's eyes burned. "You just proved my point." With that he turned to the sergeant. "Open the cell." The keys rattled in the sergeant's shaky hands as he obeyed. The door swung wide and Amara stepped out, her posture regal, the emerald earrings swaying as if to punctuate her freedom. The light from the hallway caught on the stones, sending green glints across the room. Amara moved beside Malik, her eyes never leaving Travis. She didn't need to speak. Her silence was heavier than any insult, her dignity, a blade sharper than his slurs. Malik placed a steady hand at her back and led her toward the exit. Behind them the station remained frozen, the sound of their footsteps the only rhythm in the heavy silence. Travis stood rooted, stripped not of uniform yet, but of the power he thought untouchable. The municipal building used for mandatory training sessions smelled faintly of disinfectant and old coffee. The waiting room was lined with plastic chairs that squeaked when someone shifted. Travis Huxley sat slumped in one of them. Arms crossed, uniform gone, street clothes wrinkled from a night of restless sleep. He bounced his knee rapidly, the same way he always had when he wanted to be anywhere but here. He hated the silence. He hated the clipboard in his lap with its box-checked referral racial bias incident, but most of all he hated that everyone else in the room would know why he was here. A door opened and a woman in her 50s with salt and pepper hair stepped out. She wore no uniform, just a blazer and calm authority. "I'm Dr. Patel, let's begin." Her voice was even, but it left no room for delay. Travis rose reluctantly and followed her into a room set with 15 chairs in a circle. Some were already filled. A young black man with sharp eyes, a Latina mother with her arms folded, a social worker scribbling on a notepad, and a few others. The circle felt exposed, like a stage with no curtains. Travis muttered under his breath, "What a damn joke," but he sat down anyway. The session began with silence. No introductions, no speeches, just breathing, the shuffle of a notebook, the creak of plastic. Finally Dr. Patel spoke. "We are here to confront, not to excuse, not to pretend, only to confront." She nodded at a woman across the circle. The woman's voice shook slightly, but she spoke with clarity. "My name is Sandra. I was stopped 2 years ago because of a broken tail light that wasn't broken. By the time I got home, Child Protective Services had been called. My 6-year-old thought I abandoned her." Her eyes glistened, but her jaw remained firm. Travis shifted, uncomfortable, but said nothing. Next the young black man leaned forward. His tone was cold, precise. "I was 13, skateboarding near my house. Cop slammed me against a wall, said I didn't belong in that neighborhood. My mom had lived there her whole life. They told her she should keep her kind out." He stared directly at Travis. "That cop looked at me like I was a disease. You know that look." Travis felt heat crawl up his neck. He looked away, his hands gripping his knees. He wanted to say it wasn't the same, that his case was different, but he bit his tongue for the moment. Dr. Patel's eyes moved to Travis. "Officer Huxley, what brought you here?" The room turned toward him. He forced a laugh. "I made a mistake, a big one. I thought someone was suspicious." His words were flat, rehearsed, like he wanted to get through them quickly. Dr. Patel tilted her head. "What made her suspicious?" Travis hesitated, eyes darting to the floor. She was wearing expensive earrings. She didn't look scared, she looked proud." The last word slipped out, bitter. He immediately clenched his jaw, wishing he hadn't said it out loud. The young man across the circle pounced. "So pride's a crime now? A woman can't wear jewelry and walk with her head up without you deciding she's guilty." His voice rose sharp and angry. Travis snapped back, his own voice booming. "Don't twist my words, kid. You weren't there. You don't know what I saw. She was mouthy, arrogant, thought she could talk circles around me. I've seen that attitude 1,000 times, and I know where it leads." His face flushed, his fists tightening. "People like her think the rules don't apply. Not when I'm on duty," the Latina mother scoffed, folding her arms tighter. "People like her? You mean black? Just say it. You couldn't stand that she didn't shrink when you barked at her. You couldn't stand that a black woman looked you in the eye." Her voice was steady, but the edge in it cut like glass. Travis shot to his feet, pointing a finger at her. "Don't you dare put words in my mouth. I don't care what color she was. I cared that she was strutting like she owned the damn town. You know the type, loud, defiant, daring me to do something. So I did." Gasps circled the room. The social worker's pen paused mid-scribble. Dr. Patel's eyes didn't blink. "So you punished her for daring to feel safe," she said calmly. Travis's chest heaved. "I punished her for disrespecting me, for acting like my badge didn't matter. You think I'm just supposed to stand there while someone throws attitude in my face?" His voice cracked louder. "Hell no. I run the street, not them. Not her." He was nearly shouting now, spit flying with each word. His knuckles whitened as he clenched them. The older Latina shook her head. "You don't run the street, you terrorize it. That's the problem." Her words were followed by silence, and then the unexpected sound of soft crying. Everyone turned. A woman in her 60s, quiet until now, pressed a tissue to her eyes. Her voice trembled. "My boy was stopped 3 years ago, walking home from work. They said he fit the description. He came home shaking, wouldn't leave the house for weeks. Every time I see an officer now, I think about what would have happened if he had answered wrong. You don't get it, officer. You don't know what it's like to sit awake praying your child doesn't get killed for nothing." Her sobs filled the room, raw and unfiltered. Travis froze, caught mid-breath. His rage faltered, replaced by a hollow pit in his stomach. He opened his mouth to fire back, but no words came. He sat down heavily, his hands trembling. His gaze fell to the notebook on his lap, its assignment page still blank. He picked up the pen, scrawled a few lines, then suddenly ripped the paper into shreds, throwing them to the floor. "This is bullshit," he growled. "All of it. You think you're gonna sit here and lecture me? You think you know what it's like out there? You don't. None of you wear the badge." Dr. Patel didn't flinch. She leaned forward, her tone razor sharp. "No, Officer Huxley, we wear the fear. They wear the humiliation. They wear the bruises. And you, makes you strong. No, it makes you weak." His words were steady, like stone. Travis's jaw worked, but no sound came. For the first time in years, he didn't have a comeback. He stared at the floor, heat burning in his face, and felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Doubt. The session ended with no applause, no comfort. Dr. Patel simply said, "That's enough for today, sit with it." Chairs scraped as people rose. Travis lingered, staring at the shredded paper at his feet. He felt exposed, hollow. In the back of his mind, uninvited, he saw Amara again. Not her words, not even her glare, just the steady sway of her emerald earrings as she refused to bow her head. The image burned in him like a brand, and for the first time he wondered if that was the look that would haunt him, long after the uniform was gone. The council chamber inside Silverford City Hall was already packed by the time Malik Lewis stepped to the front. Folding chairs scraped against the floor as more residents crammed inside, reporters jostling for space along the back wall. Bright fluorescent lights hung above, buzzing faintly, while the constant strobe of camera flashes lit the room in bursts. The air was charged, heavy with anger and expectation. This was not a routine hearing. This was a reckoning. Travis sat at one end of the long table, no longer in uniform but still carrying himself like he owned the room. His jaw was clenched tight, a vein bulging in his temple. Sweat darkened the collar of his shirt, yet he leaned back like he dared anyone to challenge him. His eyes darted to the crowd, lingering on the raised phones and folded arms, then narrowing with disdain. He muttered under his breath, "Look at this circus, all over a pair of earrings." The microphone picked it up anyway, amplifying his bitterness across the chamber. Malik adjusted the mic at the center podium, his voice calm but firm. "We are here because what happened on Ellison Street was not just about one officer and one woman. It was about trust. Trust that has been broken." He gestured toward the audience. "Citizens deserve safety. They deserve dignity. What they saw was neither." His words drew murmurs of agreement, heads nodding, fists clenched in support. Travis rolled his eyes dramatically, then leaned forward to his own mic. "Spare me the sermon. She disrespected me, plain and simple. You all act like I'm some monster, but I did what any cop would do." She mouthed off, strutted around like she was untouchable. "I checked her. That's called doing my job." The room erupted with shouts. "That's not your job," someone yelled from the back. "Your job is not to humiliate people." Another voice, raw with emotion, "She wasn't stealing, you liar." Reporters' cameras flashed, catching every sneer, every grimace. Malik lifted a hand to quiet the crowd, but their outrage surged. Travis smirked, feeding on the chaos. "Yeah, keep screaming. That's all you people do, scream and whine. You want the badge when it suits you, then you spit on it the second it makes you uncomfortable. Can't have it both ways." A council member slammed her palm against the table. "Officer Huxley, watch your tone." Travis barked a laugh. "Tone?
Lady, you ain't seen Tone yet. Try walking a mile in my boots, pulling over thugs every night who give you the same look she did. You think she was innocent? Please, I know the type. Jewelry shining, head up like she's better than me. That's how they all act until you put cuffs on them and remind them where they really stand. His voice was raw, guttural, spitting venom. Gasps rippled through the chamber. A woman in the second row shot to her feet, tears streaming down her face. She clutched a photo frame in her hands, shaking as she raised it. "My son," she cried, her voice cracking. He was stopped walking home from his job at the grocery store. They said he matched a description. He never came home. They killed him. And now I hear you talk like this. Her sobs broke the room's rhythm. The photo shook in her trembling hands, a young black man smiling in his work uniform frozen in time. The audience fell silent, the weight of her grief louder than any chant. Malik's voice softened, though it carried. "This is why we're here. Because these stories aren't rare, they're lived every day." He turned sharply to Travis. "You don't see pride when a woman holds her head high. You see a threat. You don't see dignity. You see defiance. And then you create a crime to justify your bias." His words were surgical, cutting through the tension. Travis slammed his fist on the table, rattling the microphones. "Bias? Don't talk to me about bias. You sit up there in your suit while I'm the one on the street dealing with these people every damn day. You don't get it, Mayor. You don't know what it's like to stare down a crowd that hates you 'cause of the uniform. So yeah, maybe I got rough. Maybe I made an example. Better me than letting them think they run the streets." The crowd erupted again, half shouting in fury, half gasping at his confession. The strobe of camera flashes lit his face, sweat dripping down his temple, eyes wild. Malik did not raise his voice. He didn't have to. "You just admitted it. You punished a citizen not for what she did, but for who she was. You wanted an example, and you chose my wife." The last words cracked like thunder. The audience roared, chants rising, "Accountability, accountability." Travis looked around, realizing too late that the room had turned entirely against him. He leaned forward, shouting over the noise. "You think I care who she married? I don't give a damn if she's the mayor's wife or the president's. She disrespected me, and I put her in her place. That's what cops do. You people should be thanking me for keeping order." His voice was hoarse, desperate, trying to claw back control. The cameras captured every second, every bead of sweat, every flash of hatred etched into his face. Malik turned to the council. "Let the record show. This is not order. This is abuse. This is why reform is not optional. It is urgent." A councilman cleared his throat, his voice unsteady. "Mr. Mayor, what reforms are you proposing?" Malik straightened, listing each point firmly. Transparency of stop data, mandatory body cams with penalties for disabling them, independent bias training, and restorative meetings between officers and community members when harm is done. "We cannot undo what has already happened, but we can make sure it does not happen again." The room applauded, though the sound was heavy with grief, not celebration. Travis scoffed, shaking his head violently. "Training? Restorative meetings? What a load of crap. You think some seminar's gonna change the streets? Nah, you're just giving criminals more excuses to run their mouths. You're soft, that's the truth. You're weak, and you're gonna get more people killed." His words spilled fast, unfiltered, his mask fully gone. The crowd booed loudly, shouts of "resign" and "get him out" echoing off the chamber walls. Reporters scribbled furiously, flashes exploding like fireworks. An older man stood slowly from the front row, leaning heavily on his cane. His voice was gravelly but strong. "I fought in Vietnam, came home wearing this country's uniform, and still got called a thug in my own damn town. And tonight, I sit here and listen to an officer say the same words I heard 50 years ago. Shame on you, son, shame." The old man's voice cracked, but he did not sit until the entire chamber erupted in applause. Travis looked at the floor, jaw tight, lips pressed thin. For the first time his shoulders sagged. Malik let the room breathe before speaking again. His voice was calm, resolute. "This isn't about one man's fall, It's about building something better than what we've tolerated for too long. We can't erase the humiliation my wife endured. We can't erase the tears of mothers, the fear of children. But we can demand accountability, and we will." His words rose above the noise, the chamber buzzing with a mix of anger and hope. Travis sat hunched, his bravado crumbling, but the venom in his glare lingered. The lights above buzzed, the cameras flashed, and Silverford stared straight into its own reflection. The week before the banquet, Amara saw him again. It was by accident. She had been walking past Silverford High, stopping to drop off materials for a mentorship program, when she noticed a folding table set up near the parking lot. Stacks of flyers were held down with a chipped coffee mug. A cardboard sign read, "Know your rights when stopped by police." Behind the table sat Travis Huxley. He wasn't in uniform. He wore a plain shirt, sleeves rolled to the elbows, sweat darkening the fabric. His eyes were fixed on the ground, as parents and students walked by. Most ignored him. Some whispered under their breath, shaking their heads. A mother stopped long enough to snatch a flyer, then looked him square in the eye. "Do you even remember the people you scared?" she asked, her voice tight with contempt. Travis didn't argue. For the first time he didn't spit venom. He lowered his gaze and muttered, "I do now. That's why I'm here." His hands trembled slightly as he pushed the stack forward. Amara stood at a distance, watching. It wasn't redemption, not even close, but it was the first sign of something cracking in him. When the night of the Silverford Reform Banquet arrived, the city's grand hall was draped in banners calling for accountability and change. Crystal lights sparkled from the ceiling, but the atmosphere was heavier than any gala. Reporters lined the walls, cameras flashing, notebooks ready. At the center, round tables filled with council members, community leaders, teachers, and families who had lived through humiliation. Amara entered on Malik's arm, her emerald earrings swaying, catching the light like green fire. The room hushed. Every step she took felt deliberate, the click of her heels echoing like a gavel striking order into chaos. Travis was there too, seated near the edges, his posture stiff. He looked like a man both exposed and out of place. His eyes darted toward Amara as she entered. For a second, his face tightened with the old sneer, but it faltered when he noticed the quiet storm in her expression. He turned away, jaw flexing, muttering under his breath, all this for a pair of rocks on her ears. Damn ridiculous. The reporter nearest him picked it up, scribbling furiously. Travis cursed softly, realizing too late the mic on the podium had caught enough of it to ripple across the speakers. The mayor began his speech, his voice calm but carrying weight. "Tonight is not about celebration, it is about honesty. It is about the pain of those humiliated, the courage of those who speak, and the demand for a system that protects all." The crowd listened intently, but many eyes drifted to Amara, waiting for the moment she would speak. The anticipation hung like a drumbeat, louder with every second. When Malik finished, the spotlight shifted. Amara rose slowly, her hands steady, her earrings glowing under the light, as she walked toward Travis. The room fell silent, the clinking of forks stopped, even the cameras seemed to pause, waiting. Amara stopped a few feet away from him. Her eyes locked onto his, and she spoke in a voice that was calm but rang with authority. "You tried to strip me of my dignity in front of strangers, Officer Huxley. You tried to reduce me to a stereotype. You failed." Her words cut through the hall. The audience leaned in, breath held. Travis's throat worked as he swallowed hard, but then his old instinct returned. He scoffed, his voice rough. "You make it sound like I ruined your whole damn life. I did my job. You mouthed off, you got checked. That's how it goes. Don't like it. Too bad." Gasps filled the hall, cameras flashing brighter. Amara's eyes narrowed, but she didn't raise her voice. "Your job is not to humiliate citizens for walking proud. Your job is not to invent crimes, because you cannot handle a black woman looking you in the eye. You didn't enforce the law, you enforced your own hate." Her words echoed, bouncing off the walls. Travis leaned forward, knuckles white on the table. "You think you know me. You don't know the streets. You don't know the disrespect I take every day. You people walk around like the rules don't apply. I put you in cuffs because you needed to be reminded. I'd do it again." The room exploded with outrage. Voices shouted, "Get him out," and "How dare you." A few slammed their hands against tables. Reporters shouted questions over each other. Malik rose quickly, but Amara raised her hand gently, signaling for silence. The noise died down, though the tension still crackled. She stepped closer, her words slicing through the quiet. "You still don't understand. You think this is about me. It isn't. It's about every child who learns fear before they learn freedom. Every mother who prays her son comes home alive. Every father who tells his daughter not to look too confident, not to look too proud, because pride gets mistaken for crime." Travis's face twisted, but the sneer couldn't hold. His breathing was shallow, uneven. For a moment he looked down at his hands, at the tremor he couldn't stop. He shook his head violently, forcing the bitterness back. "Spare me the speech. You think standing here in your fancy dress makes you some saint. All it means is the system's bending over backward for you cause of who you married." His words were ugly, bitter, dripping with resentment. The crowd hissed, groaned, but Amara did not flinch. She leaned forward, her voice lower, cutting straight into him. "You're wrong. This is not about who I married. This is about who you chose to be. You had the chance to serve. You chose to dominate. You had the chance to protect. You chose to humiliate, and now you're here in front of everyone, still clinging to the lie that your hate is duty. But the truth is plain, Officer Huxley. You don't need punishment. You need to understand what it means to be human." Her words landed heavy. The room was silent again, the weight unbearable. For the first time, Travis's eyes dropped. He stared at the floor, lips pressed tight, shoulders sagging. His hands trembled, the same hands that had once tightened cuffs around her wrists. He whispered, barely audible, "I don't know how." The words surprised even him. The microphones caught it, carrying his weakness across the hall. Amara straightened, her voice calm but unyielding. "Then you start by listening. By remembering, by never forgetting the shame of tonight." She stepped back, the emerald earrings flashing once more under the lights. The audience erupted into applause, not loud and celebratory, but heavy, like the sound of justice demanding to be heard.
Join us to share meaningful stories by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell to start your day with profound lessons and heartfelt